countdown is on. It is less than 100 days away from the opening game in Paris between the All Blacks and France. This is when the All Black selectors start watching. Can the All Blacks take two power wingers to the World Cup?
Right now, I don't think there's room for both of them.
Spectacular finish!
Justin Marshall said he would be very surprised if Cam Roigard is in a different coloured jersey at the end of the year.
Hear that? He is knocking on the door for a start.
It's a competition around the 10, but you've got world-class 10s that anyone across the globe would want to pick.
For Sean, it's always been about consistency, and I feel like this season has been his best season. He's locked up that fullback job.
Amoni Lara was very similar as well. They'd have to do a lot to not get an opportunity in the All Black jersey this season.
Going to the World Cup with a couple of nehe milaskaras, where people don't know them, they haven't been able to study them, is really, really important. Who are your two number 7s? Who are your two number 6s? Because Scott Barrett goes down. Who's your next 6?
I look at Jacobson and his impact on all parts of the game. I love what he's doing.
Take it for granted because there's just so many good players out there.
Boy, they're going to have some tough decisions to make.
Some things never happen. Some things only ever happen once, like getting named in an All Black team. Tonight here, live on The Breakdown, the first All Black squad for 2023. It's time now to go to the Te Awamutu Sports Rugby Club, the home of Ian Foster and his rugby, and hear that first All Black squad for this year.
Tēnā koutou katoa, kei aku nui, kei aku rahi. Tēnā hoki koutou I te kingitanga e whakanui ana te rā whānau o kingi koroki I te paukai o Pōhara. Kia ora tātou. I am delighted to announce that the All Black squad for the 2023 Libertad D Rugby Championship series in alphabetical order is as follows. Bowden Barrett, Blues and Taranaki. Geordie Barrett, Hurricanes and Taranaki. Scott Barrett, Crusaders and Taranaki. Sam Cane, All Blacks captain, Chiefs and Bay of Plenty. Finlay Christie, Blues and Tasman. Caleb Clark, Blues and Auckland. Dane Coles, Hurricanes and Wellington. Ethan de Groot, Highlanders and Southland. Braden Enor, Crusaders and Canterbury. Lester Whainga Anuku, Crusaders and Tasman. Samapeni Finau, Chiefs and Waikato. Shannon Frizzell, Highlanders and Tasman. Rico Ioane, Blues and Auckland. Luke Jacobson, Chiefs and Waikato. Will Jordan, Crusaders and Tasman. Nepo Laulala, Blues and Counties Manukau. Anton Leonard Brown, Chiefs and Waikato. Tyrell Lomax, Hurricanes and Tasman. Josh Lord, Chiefs and Taranaki. Damien McKenzie, Chiefs and Waikato. Dallas McLeod, Crusaders and Canterbury. Richie Moonga, Crusaders and Canterbury. Emoni Narawa, Chiefs and Bay of Plenty. Fletcher Newell, Crusaders and Canterbury. Dalton Papali'i, Blues and Counties Manukau. Brodie Retallick, Chiefs and Hawke's Bay. Cameron Roigard, Hurricanes and Counties Manukau. Adi Savia, Hurricanes and Wellington. Aaron Smith, Highlanders and Manawatu. Samisoni Tokiaho, Chiefs and Waikato. Cody Taylor, Crusaders and Canterbury. Mark Telaire, Blues and North Harbour. Ofa Tuungafasi, Blues and Northland. Tupō Vai, Chiefs and Taranaki. Samuel Whitelock, Crusaders and Canterbury. Tamaiti Williams, Crusaders and Canterbury. In addition to those 36 named, Sean Stevenson from the Chiefs and North Harbour has been selected as injury cover and will assemble with the team. Congratulations to all those selected, especially the 5 new caps. I'll now pass back to the studio.
Thank you very much, Dame Patsy Reddy there. Congratulations, yes, we reflect that. Congratulations to those 36 men just named in their first All Black squad for 2023. What a moment. And when we look at that squad, Jeff, I'll start with you. What's your initial... Oh, he's doing this with his fingers. What is your initial reaction, thoughts on that squad for the Rugby Championship?
Well, clearly I'm excited for the new players that have been named in the All Blacks for the very first time, but also the fact that Mills, KT, Laura, they have rewarded form. Guys who have stood up in Super Rugby, who are playing outstandingly well. And I think over the last weekend, over the last 2 days, some guys in this list have played their way into an All Black squad, which I'm excited about, which means we might see something not necessarily different in terms of the way they play, but the possibilities going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, firstly, congratulations to those 5 new caps. I think it's a wonderful moment, not just for them, but also for their families as well, hearing their names called out. And for some guys like the Braden Ennors that have come back into it after horrific injuries, you know. So, yeah, form has been great. It's a really strong looking side. So I'm really looking forward to sort of the next part of it, and also the Rugby Championship and the, I suppose, what we sort of dissect in the next few weeks. KT.
Yeah, I think, obviously it's exciting because some lives have just changed. For the better. It's amazing for them, like you spoke about, those young guys. Some guys have given some opportunities back in the squad to see how they react, and I suppose a couple of guys might be there under necessity, and then some other guys get opportunities. I mean, come back from injury. But I like the balance of the squad. There's been some brave decisions by these guys we're just about to go to.
Yeah, well, let's cross now back to Ian Foster, who's going to tell us more about his squad.
It's always a tough job picking this team. Every All Black squad has always been required a whole lot of conversations. I'd like to thank Jason and Joe, particularly for their work, but also Scott, Greg and Straws for their contribution as fellow coaches. Like I said, every All Black squad has some great stories to it. It's also tough on some people who miss out, but we're incredibly excited with this group. There's a nice blend of existing players, but also some new players who we feel have really earned their opportunity to be named today. It's a team that we want to go into this Rugby Championship with a lot of confidence. We think it's vital the championship for this group to really grow its game, to get our game ready, so that when we go to and hit France at the World Cup, that we're excited, confident and really set to go into that game 1 against France. So it's a vital time for us. I'd really like to congratulate Sam Cane for the captaincy. We've got a lot of faith in him, a lot of belief in Sam as a leader, as a player. He's had a couple of disrupted years, but it's fantastic to see him back with a smile on his face and leading and playing to the level that he is. So delighted to have Sam in that space. Also like to say a special congratulations to the 5 new caps, to Mighty, Samapeni, Cameron, Dallas and Amoni. It's a very special time for them, for their families, and I'm sure there's people around them that will be incredibly proud of tonight and what they've achieved as people. So well done, you 5. And also a mention to Sean, who's also been named as a replacement for Mark Talia, who's got an injury that'll keep him out for 2 or 3 weeks. And so we're bringing Sean in, and again, thoroughly deserved, and he should be proud of his achievement. Finally, just a big thanks to TMU Sports for having us. It's pretty special for an All Black team to get out into the community, to grassroots, and this is where we want to connect as a team. We know where we're from, and we want to represent our country right across the breadth. And as we go forward into the Rugby Championship and the World Cup, we want to feel that support of the community behind us. So big appreciation to this club. Thank you.
I imagine some feelings of relief there to finally have that team out there announced the first of 2023. It's a tough decision. Then you have to sit down. You've got all those talented rugby players you've got to go through. And he mentioned the families who will have supported those individual players so well throughout. So thinking of all of you at home, especially for those 5 new players, there'll be, well, I'll imagine a few tears, but that's just me. I'm a bit of a crier. So Mills, when we look at that team, one name sticks out for me for multiple reasons, but the Canterbury fan in me, Dallas McLeod. What do you feel about his inclusion in this side?
Oh, I think if you look at the balance in terms of what they've sort of got in the midfield, it's interesting he's been named on the midfield. He's a very versatile player, strong. He's got plenty of speed, amongst him. This is a hotly contested, I suppose, division, Jeff, in terms of the names that and the style of player that you sort of want. What we've sort of seen with Dallas McLeod, you know, throughout these last few years, particularly this year as well, is he's strong, he's agile, he's got plenty of speed, but also he stays in the fight. You know, that's what I've loved about him as well. He's got plenty of good skills as well.
He's physical, he's accurate. Look, he's playing in a really well-organised team. He understands his role. Look, this was a standout performance against the Blues at Eden Park, KT, where he showed this full skill set, and he's been forced to play on the wing through a number of challenges they've had injury-wise, and then they lose a David Havili. Look, there's no doubt that he's probably the guy at the moment who's sitting still on the outside of that group, but for him to get an opportunity to go and shine, they've clearly looked at some of the things he does. I love it. It's great. I mean, and this is, by definition, a genuine bolter, because none of us can honestly say we had him in the conversation right now.
I might have.
You the starting 15 for the Crusaders.
But I like it. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I also reckon he doesn't make many mistakes, you know, and we just saw a couple of instances there. His line runnings was really, really good. So as a first five, when you have a second five that can do that, it changes your game, it changes the shape of your attack, and I think that's another thing you spoke about, is heavy carries is something that I think has really got him over the line as well.
So we look at that 36-man strong squad, and it is a strong squad. When you look at it, is this a winning team?
Of course it is. It's the All Blacks. No, but what I look at is the fact that now they've got some options and they've other players step up. When you think about that new blood, Tamaiti Williams, the fact he can play both sides of the scrum, they're looking for some new blood up front. They got that. I'm interested in some guys, Mills as well, that have been named that are clearly haven't played any rugby. Fletcher Newell's one of those. Sam Whitelock is under an injury cloud, but that may be a little bit more positive than we'd previously heard. So you start throwing in that in the conversation, Sammy Penny-Finau, it gives them options. I love it. I look at this group. The big thing is now is who's the first 23? And let's get to that. And there's a lot of things to go under the bridge. But I think some guys, for me, I say once again, some guys on Friday and Saturday confirmed they needed to be written in pen. Not in pencil, in pen. I think it's impressive.
Yeah, 100%. I like the balance of it, because what we sort of got last year in terms, particularly when you look at the forward pack, you know, up front with the Groot and Lomax, they really stood out. Really young blood. You know, there's a sort of a mix of that, but a lot of experience amongst the squads. It's a really nice-looking, strong squad. But that's it. The 23, for me, you know, who plays, who gets an opportunity, because it's still a big squad.
It is a very big squad. We're going to head back now to the man himself, Ian Foster, who is with Kirsty.
Thanks very much. Yes, Ian Foster, congratulations to get that one out there. The first squad of the year. You had a live audience as well who were umming and ahhing and oohing. What excites you most about this squad?
I love the blend. I think, you know, we've got a lot of sort of experienced players who know what it is to go to get ready for a World Cup, get ready for Test matches. We've got a group that's been through some adversity and built a lot of character last year, and we've got a really nice blend of some young players who I think have played their way in through this year's Super Rugby campaign. And, you know, and they bring a different ingredient into the group. They bring a bit of excitement, a bit of a challenge, and the Rugby Championship is going to be vital for us to see where they're at and to see how that looks when we narrow it down to 33.
Let's touch on some of those exciting youngsters. A lot of them have been talked about all year, but Dallas McLeod was someone that came out of the blue. What did you see in Dallas?
Yeah, well, we see Dallas primarily being a midfielder, and you know, I think probably 12 would be, and it's an area that, you know, with Davey and Quinn on the injured list, it's a chance for us to have a look at him there. But his versatility, I thought he's played really well on the wing. It's probably been a selection by necessity down there, but it's you know, he's fast, he's strong, he's courageous under the ball, he's a great chaser of the ball, and I guess his versatility is going to be critical for us. So, you know, we've got a chance in a slightly bigger squad to bring him in and see where it goes.
Sean Stevenson has been named as an injury replacement right now for Mark Talia. A lot of people will be asking at home, what does he have to do to make it into your Rugby World Cup 33? What is it more that you want to see?
Yeah, well, he'll find that out when he comes in. You know, we've got pretty specific job, you know, requirements, and, you know, on both sides of the ball. He's certainly in the attack side. He's proven to be outstanding, and he should be very proud of his year. And we've seen a massive improvement in I guess, the defensive, the structural stuff, and also the tackle and some of the contact work. But we still want to, I guess, see a little bit more in that space. But the fact that where he's been able to come in and particularly probably be with us maybe for those first two tests is a great opportunity for us to get a good read of that.
We can't imagine the conversations that you had with all the players that you had to pick from. So some people would have been in pencil, some would have been in pen. Did the team or the squad change at all over the weekend after those two semi-finals?
Yes, it did. one went in and one went out. I'll leave the rest to you. But, you know, these are the games that you want people to play well. And I guess for some people, you know, they were probably well cemented in. But for others, these are the games that you really want to see how people front up in those big moments. And I think, you know, when you look at the All Black 15 team yet to come, will be announced shortly, that's also got some players that have really put their hand up.
Some of the unlucky ones are probably Brad Weber, Akira Ioane, Hoskins Sotutu hasn't made the New Zealand 15. How tough were the conversations to those guys who have been in the environment before?
Yeah, look, they're tough, and there's still a couple that I've left texts and messages and haven't heard back from, which hurts a bit. But look, they're never nice, and you know, good men playing hard. They've got a dream, and I guess this is a temporary setback in some ways. But the challenge is that history's full of players who have missed out on a squad and yet come back strong and force their way into a World Cup, and be it in the initial squad or as a replacement. So the door's very much open.
Now tell us about a couple of those injuries. Mark Talaire, how bad is he? And Sam Whitelock, do you expect him to play in the final this weekend?
Well, we're waiting to see on Sam Whitelock. We certainly wouldn't expect him to play based on the medical data that we've got with his Achilles. And Mark Talaire is very much... we're not totally sure yet, but it looks like it's a knee strain and probably 3 to 4 weeks.
You must be excited. Fozzie, you're back home, your home club, Te Awamutu Sports. This is a Rugby World Cup year, and you've just given us the first taster into what we've got to look forward to. Oh, incredibly, you know, and I think, you know, where we finished last year, and, you know, it was a heck of a year, wasn't it? But, you know, we stayed strong, we grew. We're probably a team that a lot of people are writing off a little bit, which is, you know, not a usual space for us. But it's we're incredibly excited. We need to play a fast, skillful game. We want to go to a World Cup ready to do that. But I love the like I said, the combinations we've got. We've got some great youth up front. We're going to bring a lot of power and energy to our forward game, and a lot of speed and skill to the back game, and that's our game. Well, we commend you on your brave and exciting selections day. You're not expecting this. I'm sure you'll want to have a beer with a couple of your mates, but this man right here, Mark McNaughton, the president of the Te Awamutu Sports Club, is going to present you with a very special jersey recognising 100 games for this rugby club. So there you go. Oh, very good. That is a surprise. Thank you very much, Mark.
Congratulations, Ian, and good luck is what I'd like to say, and thanks very much for bringing this to Te Awamutu Sports. It's fantastic, it really is. So, but good luck for your journey, and we all wish you extremely well. But this is just a celebration.
Thanks so much, Mark, and congratulations to Ian Foster there.
Thanks very much.
A lovely moment there. I really genuinely don't think he was expecting that. So awesome to receive that jersey. And that you heard from the coach there. There's a bit to unpack from that interview there with Kirsty. I want to start straight off the bat. After the weekend of semi-finals Super Rugby, well, 1 in, 1 out. Who do you think it was? He let us suggest. Who do you think it was, Mills? I'll start. Do you like how I started with you?
Jeff, who do you reckon it was?
Okay, well, straight to Jeff. Okay.
Look, I think one of the areas in particular was the competition around the number 8 position. And look, Hoskins Sotutu has been one of the players who's been their environment for a couple of years. He didn't have a great night down in Christchurch, and a couple of other guys have stood up in that position. So when I think about Hoskins and where he's sitting right now, you know, I think he'll be bitterly disappointed. I hope he wasn't one of the players that didn't text the coach back, because that's, I certainly think that's an area you'd be concerned of if you're a coach. Look, there's a lot of positive things about his game. He's a guy now that's going to have to find a way to fight his way back into the conversation. He, and we'll hear and talk about the All Blacks 15, he's not a part of that either. So something to me is, something's up there. Yeah. That's a surprise. But Semipeni Finau was the player I think was in competition for that spot, and ultimately I think that's where they've gone.
KT, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. Totally, I do. You know, and when the squad come out and we're listening for that, that's one thing that's really stood out for me. You know, you sort of talk about Semipeni Finau. There was whispers about him during the season, but I think also Luke Jacobson, the heat that he has put on at number 8 in particular is undeniable. You know, so the way he's gone in conjunction with Hoskins' dip in form, I think might be there or thereabouts, you know.
Sammy Penny brings something different. So he brings youth and enthusiasm. So you can, like, you know, when you're sitting there and you go, okay, well, you bring out there's no real sort of risk. He's had a really good season. When you're looking at big time moments, and we compared, you know, Sotutu or Jacobson, for instance, you look at big games, you know, big game on Friday night, big game on Saturday, and you sort of start comparing sort of how they sort of react to that. You know, the game in Hamilton, you know, to me, it's a hard-fought matchup. You've got to stay in. You've got to stay within discipline to stay within the game plan, because anything can kind of happen. And I suppose that's probably what Fozzie's talking about. That's the level down now from Test match footy, you know, in terms of the pressure, in terms of decision making, not getting too loose, making really good decisions, and also the mental side of it. You know, making sure that you're turning up. And I guess, you know, when you're looking at these two guys and comparing that, you know, Luke Jacobson can cover all the positions as well, where Hoskins is probably an out-and-out 8. And that's probably the balance in terms of, you know, why he possibly, you know, got ahead of them.
Oh, I think also, you heard Fozzie say he wants his forwards to be tough. I'm not saying Hoskins isn't tough, but like to your point, Sammy Penny now, the way he carries the ball into contact is tough. And I think he's been a big part of why the Chiefs have got up the last couple of weekends against some pretty tough opposition in the Australians.
He used the word he wants power and energy. And is this a side that's going to bring that to Fozzie's team, do you think?
Well, they have to be relentless. And I think they'll get that with this group. And they're going to have to get that if you're going to compete with the likes of France and Ireland and South Africa, because those are the immediate threats, because that's the challenge we have in front of us straight away. So, of course, we've got Australia to compete with in the Bledisloe Cup, and you never take that for granted. And there's a challenge with Argentina. It's all right there. But I love this is the fact that they recognise exactly what it is they need, and they've gone out and they've selected that. And that's why I think Luke Jacobson, look, I think he's in direct competition with Ethan Blackadder. Ethan Blackadder lasted 5 minutes, unfortunately. He's going to be out for a little bit longer. To me, this guy has earned the right to get another opportunity in the All Black jersey. I'm impressed with his season so far. Look, he can play all three positions, Mills. I mean, I think you reward teams for their endeavour, the way that they play. This is a sort of skill set, you know, I love it, I really do. There's some guys in here who've just earned the right.
Well, fast and skillful is what Fozzie said. That's the game. We've gone right back to our strengths. So when you talk about the French and the Irish and how they've sort of been dominated, you know, dominating world rugby in the last couple of years, that sort of those pictures here showed a little bit of skill, and that's in the heat of the battle, heat of the finals football, when you have to come out your own 22, you sight, you see, you execute in terms of, you know, if you lose that ball or you don't execute, yeah, chances are the Brumbies pick up and you're down the other end. And so it's you know, it's the hard stuff, like you're talking about, being mentally hard, mentally composed, but also disciplined enough to know that, hey, don't get too loose.
We need to remember that there are quite a few on the injury list who, you know, didn't get picked, obviously, because of the injuries. One of those that was injured was Talia, and so Sean Stevenson makes his way into the All Blacks 36 squad sort of through injury. How do you feel about that, KT?
Well, he's got an opportunity, and that's what he's been given. So it's up to Sean Stevenson now, who's worked so hard and shown consistency this year that he's up to the task. He has to prove to these selectors, prove to this All Black team that he has got the goods, in particular spots that Fozzie spoke about on the defensive side of the ball.
The hardest thing from KT Mills is the fact that, realistically, I think he's an out-and-out fullback at that international level right now. The balance, he can play on the wing. When you've got guys, the likes of a Bowden Barrett, Damien McKenzie, Geordie Barrett, Will Jordan in front of you in the 15 position, I'm just not sure there was enough room to get in the initial 36. And even with the way Fozzie talked about Dallas McLeod, you get the sense it's just to come in and have a look at them. I'm not sure they're going to play in the first game. They're not going to be part of that. But with Sean Stevenson, he's actually got one more week. And that's in a final, right, against the Crusaders. Yeah. And his standing and his stock can rise even more if he goes out and delivers once again. So you're almost getting another look at him again, which is great.
But Fozzie spoke about it. He said one guy this weekend come in because of the way he played. So that's what he has, like you said, that one game, 100%.
And I guess it's a different mentality when you're Sean Stevenson now, because you're going into the environment trying to absorb as much as you can out of it. You know, have a really good attitude, because you just don't know what the coaches are actually looking for. It's more the experience of being in there. They'll look at him this week. You know, can he step up to that? He'll go into the environment. He might not necessarily play, but something could actually happen in terms of, you know, there's could be injuries that come up, and then, you know, they really like the attitude of what he's sort of, you know, bringing. He could actually pick up a spot that might be a wing. It might not be a fullback position. It might be, hey, well, you go in we're going to train this movie. I want you to go out there and practice it. And the more he gets stuff like that, and off the sort of the games, the better the coaches will go, actually, these are the things we weren't quite sure about him, he might actually sneak himself in.
So how closely is Fozzie watching this weekend? Sean Stevenson's obviously got still one game. Fozzie talked about the importance of big moments and watching what players do in those big moments. So how much specifically will they be watching what Sean Stevenson does in that final?
Oh, they'll be watching a lot. It'd be a good chance for him to stay playing. But I think the other thing they'll be watching is hopefully no one gets injured. You know, touch wood. And you know, another guy that he's just mentioned is Sam Whitelock. You know, I mean, he's under a massive injury cloud. You know, what do they kind of do there? But in terms of guys like Sean Stevenson, he'll be watching to make the little wee things that he'll do. Can he get up again for another big moment?
This is a knockout game. Yep. That's what the final of Super Rugby is. And so when all of a sudden you're looking at Lester Whanganuku, you look at Amoni Narawa, all the guys who have just been given their opportunity 2 weeks later in an All Black environment, a week later they'll assemble, they'll watch this game, and I'll tell you what, they'll be taking really close eyes on all of the performers, all the guys they've just named, because all of a sudden the eyes are actually on them and going, oh, you've just been given an opportunity, so what are you going to take in this game? So it's almost to me like a trial for some positions. Wonga, McKenzie, I mean, it's going to be all on in so many different positions. I will say this, really stoked for Braden Ennor, because I think he might have, we talked one in, one out, I think he might have been a guy who was sitting, but he needed one big performance, and he did it on the weekend against what? The incumbent All Black centre Enrico Ioane. So the conversation, I think, has changed about where Braden Ennor fits right now. Always liked his ability. It was nice to see him deliver on the biggest stage, KT.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, he's had some consistent football for once, you know. He's had a string of games together. He's always had the talent. It's never been in question, you know, but it's always been the injuries that has been something against, you know, stopped his development. So I think this year he's had that consistency, and now he's actually playing some decent football at the right end of the season.
Another hotly contested position is the halfback position. How do we feel about Cam Roygaard? Now,
here we go.
I'll start with you.
Buckle up. Why are you coming to me? Why are you coming to me?
No, the reason I talk about, I'll give it to you first, because Cam Roygaard, worked on a lot of the Hurricanes games with you this year, and it was a player's name that constantly came up. He took his opportunities, and so much so he's just been named in a 36-man All Black squad.
Well, why was Folau Fakatava picked for the All Blacks? Because he was something different. Cam Roygaard exactly fits that mould. The fact we know that Aaron Smith, Finn Christie and Brad Weber are similar type players. Different in subtle ways, but none of those three play like Cam Roygaard. He does a lot of this. He runs with the ball mills, he attacks the line, he's physical, you know, he's a bigger frame, he's certainly got plenty of speed. You know, like, ultimately, I look at Cam Roygaard and go, I think this is the right selection. Very hard, though, on a Brad Weber.
Yeah, has he been hard done by Mills?
I think Brad is a very good player, but what we do know about Brad is what happened last year. He wasn't named in the side. They know what Brad can do. What they're wanting to try and establish is, can Cam Roygaard, you know, is he that mould that they want in that? And so when you look at it's effectively 5 halfbacks, right? You know, Fakatava and Webby will be in the 15, All Blacks 15. They'll still get an opportunity to play. It's the makeup of that third position, probably even the second. So where does Cam Roygaard play? When does he play? Is it that first test in Argentina where if he comes off the bench, or do they start him to say, well, let's test him out there and see what he can do under test match footy pressure? And they know what the other guys can do. I think you're right. Yeah. What can the halfback bring that's different? That's not just going to have the speed of the pass like Aaron Smith do, you know, snipe around the corners, bring big moments that Fakatava can do to win games. That's what they're kind of looking for, something different.
And I think Fakatava goes and just plays some football with the All Blacks 15. He just needs runs under the belt. And I think all those other halfbacks have been in the All Black environment. Roygaard hasn't, so this is the opportunity that All Blacks want to see him. They have to do it right now to see what he's got, to the point that you're making. And he's got a massive left foot boot, you know, so that's another, I suppose, difference that he has from the other ones.
Oh, it is exciting. First All Black squad of 2023 has been named. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to hear from All Black captain Sam Cane. We'll see you soon.
That's what the All Blacks coaches will be looking for ahead of France this year. Tamaiti Williams. They pick up and they score the try. Keeps it in, and this time he says enough kicking, I'm going to run. Oh, he runs straight into a big shoulder of Sammy Penny, feet out.
Fakatava looks to buck in the inside, and Roygaard goes off on a run. Now, has he got the pace? I reckon he has, Cam Roygaard. And he scores. Roygaard the try. Wow, what a try.
But now McLeod, who's looked really strong in midfield, breaking tackles. McLeod come down just short.
McKenzie sends it wide, and now it could open up here for Narawa. Chased across, but he's got pace to burn. Oh, that's a great try. Emoni Narawa for the Chiefs. It doesn't get any better than that.
Welcome back to this special edition of The Breakdown, as we have just had the first All Blacks team of 2023 named. 36-man strong squad, and it's a very, very exciting day, especially for those men who have just been named. You'll have a look, if you've just joined us there, at the names here. Jeff, when you were playing, when you first found out, like some of these, the 5 new names here on the list, what was that feeling like? Describe it for us.
I was shocked, to be fair, when I got named because, you know, it happened a little bit out of the blue. I'd only just started playing NPC rugby and was in 1993, and I was only a young man. So it took me a while for it to sink in. And then we didn't assemble for a few weeks. And then when I got there, Mills, KT, and then when I got in the environment, I was like, wow, I've been watching most of these guys, played the odd game against them, and you're expecting me to go to the other side of the world to go on tour and play against guys that I'd grown up being my heroes. So for these guys, this is the reality of it. For a lot of these guys, they've got a big game in front of them next weekend. So it catches you by surprise, but in some ways, you hear the noise. There was a bit of noise, but you're never quite sure until finally you hear your number called.
Mills, do you remember the moment you got named?
I'll just say quickly, it doesn't help being a Wilson. You start counting, going, what number are they up to? Because Tamati Williams was doing exactly the same thing. Going, what number are we up to? What number are we up to?
When we travelled down to Christchurch for the first semi-final on Friday, his parents had flown down, you know, particularly to be there for the semi-final, but also for the team naming. So for them to be able to be with their son now in this special moment, because you've also got to remember, this is, you know, every Kiwi kid's dream to be an All Black, right? To grow up and become an All Black, and when they finally get their name out, he was the last name, wasn't it? Williams.
Well, last name.
Very last name. So it's a special moment, but also, you know, it's this pure emotion, and it's not till you do get into camp that you realise that you are. When the gear comes out and you think, oh, all the stuff that you're actually getting, then you knuckle down and start, you know, getting yourself into work. It's different now because there's still a game. You know, and back in our days, it was after a final or, you know, at the end of the season, and it certainly wasn't 7:30 at night. It was lunchtime, so they've had a long time to wait. But I'm sure there's some, you know, real proud families out there, proud moments, and you know, the next couple of weeks we'll hear a lot from a lot of those new, you know, 5 new caps, which I'm looking forward to hearing from.
Yeah, really exciting night for the families as well. Mums and dads who've done all that driving around to rugby practice and the washing, who knows what else. I know someone knows all too well about that. Well, his mum particularly, Sam Cane, the All Black captain. He's with Kirsty.
Sam Cane, congratulations. I know that it's never a given, even though we all expected it. What was it like when you first looked at that sheet and you saw the names written down for the All Blacks squad this year?
Yeah, thank you. I think you guys might have captured some footage as I'd come in. Matt passed the team sheet over. Yeah, exciting to see the squad that they've picked. A lot of, I think the new guys are ones that we've all watched and thought, man, they've had an outstanding Super Rugby season. You also look through and think of who's missed out. But I suppose that's the nature of an All Blacks side, is that there's always so many good players vying for positions, and that's just the way it goes. But in terms of the squad and the balance, it's pretty exciting. It's sort of, now that we've got to get ready for a Super Rugby final, but you sort of look ahead and think, man, I can't wait to get back in the ABs.
Yep, you've got the All Blacks hat on, you've got the Chiefs hat on. Is your group chat on WhatsApp blowing up with Emoni Narawa and Sammy Penny-Finau both being named? And I mean, what have you seen in training that we haven't seen? Have we seen the best of these guys yet?
Yeah, the group chat's blowing up. My phone's, you feel it vibrating in your pocket. So obviously the team will be stoked for those guys. What do they show at training? They're both guys who have are exceptional athletes. They're both seriously fast. They've got X factor. They can do stuff on the field that most of us can only dream of. And they're smart rugby players, and they just play with a lot of confidence. So yeah, really happy for them, and hopefully they can have a big one for the Chiefs this weekend.
Sam, All Blacks captain, our first Rugby World Cup as captain of this team, although it is your third. I mean, what did you learn from the previous two, being part of that leadership from guys like Kieran Reid and Richie McCaw, about what's important?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the first one, I think I was 23 years old, you're sort of just along for the ride a little bit, in terms of you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes so much. Without doubt, though, there's a lot you learn when you can reflect and compare the two campaigns and what went well and what didn't. In terms of specifics, I don't really have anything for you just yet. But I think like we've got a good chunk of our group, particularly the leadership group, who have been to a couple of those World Cups. We know what it's like to win one, and then we've had that heartbreak of losing one. So I think that puts us in pretty good space leading into this one. That, along with sort of the bit of adversity, I suppose, and then the challenges that we've had the last couple of seasons, I think time will tell, but I feel I'm very confident in the squad in terms of leadership, but also the squad as a whole.
Can you dig into the last 12 months? We all know that it was challenging for the team, both on and off the field. What are the lessons that you'll take from last year?
It's about, during those times, we just really had to narrow our focus and work out what was important. There's always... We talk about like an important many. There's so many things that are important, but really been able to nail down what are the critical things that are going to help us get the performance we're after. And sometimes that's blocking out outside noise. Sometimes that's just focusing on key aspects of our game. So that was part of it, and part of it was just like staying tight as a group too. It's easy for the guys that are playing each week, but it's about making sure the whole squad's on board and I suppose sort of paddling their walker in the right direction, and we're all buying in. And I can hand on heart say that the sort of the tightness of the squad is really good.
Now, I know you avoid the outside noise in the media, but your form this year has just been unbelievable. People have been calling you the Terminator. What's behind that? Is it as simple as saying that you're fit and healthy this year? Has it got something to do with Hudson, your son? What is it?
Look, I think, to be honest, a lot of it's just been doing fit and healthy. Since pretty much being named All Blacks captain, I've had a couple of disruptive years, which were really frustrating, but also, I suppose, character building at the same time. And since then, I put in a lot of work in the off-season. I think the facial fracture against Japan was hard to take because it was sort of a bit of an unavoidable type injury, but it was frustrating timing, and that drove a lot of the work I did in the off-season, set myself up to have a good season this year. And that, along with just trusting myself again, like not going out there and trying to overplay my hand, trusting my ability as a rugby player, and that I'll see things and react on the field and do a good job. And been enjoying it.
Well, congratulations. It must be an incredibly proud moment for you and your family leading this side. And have a great week. Big week coming up.
Yeah, cheers, Kirsty. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sam.
Well, as Kirsty said, we expected it, but you never take those things as a given. KT, she touched on his form, the Terminator. I think we all panicked as All Black fans on the weekend when he hit that tackle. I think it was in the second half, and everyone sort of went as he took a little minute to get up there. But he has been on fire this Super Rugby season.
And I remember he was talking about noise. I remember there's a lot of noise around why is he even the number 7, let alone the All Black skipper. But I think emphatically this season he has shown why. The things that he does, and it's the little things. I watched him in that game the last couple of weekends in particular, and some of the carries he does, the yards that he do, the positions he gets himself into that he shouldn't be there, but he does. And he is, and that's why he is who he is. That's why he's got so much respect amongst not only the Chiefs, but that All Black group. And I just think that you can't help but follow guys that lead like that, right? And like he said, he's healthy and he's looking strong, and there's no fluke that he's playing the way he's playing at the minute.
Yeah, and that stems on to confidence, right? I mean, you heard him after that Japanese. I mean, he's had a lot of injuries. They're massive injuries as well. His neck, initially his facial fracture. The end of last year. We've just been wanting to get some momentum before he goes on into year tour. But what it's done, it's actually given him time to really hone on those injuries and get himself right throughout the pre-season. And not only just physically, but also mentally, because he's had to come back also and really lead a team that's been the best team this season, and that's the Chiefs. So he's had time inside the environment because he hasn't been away in All Black duty, but also getting himself right and then have belief. That's a massive, to have belief in yourself and what he can do. And the way he's performing, that's why he's the All Black captain. And
Kirsty also touched on it, his son Hudson. Those are the types of things that add sort of balance to your life. And I guess when you're an athlete and your whole life is all about being an athlete, and not for me personally, obviously, but when you're the All Black captain, sometimes it would be hard to park the All Black captaincy and then go away and do other things.
No, it doesn't go away. if you're the All Black captain. And what we need someone who is relentless in the drive for perfection and getting the best out of other players. And I believe Sam Cane is that person. And he's been through some adversity, through some challenges. The fight he's done to get himself back out on the field to play at the level he's playing, he is built for international rugby. That is what he's done. He's won the Cal Tremaine Trophy. He's been our best player. That's in recent seasons. So for me, people last year tried to hold him responsible for a whole lot of things he had nothing to do with. Nothing to do with. What he will do is sacrifice for the team if it needs to be sacrificed. To me, he is the All Black leader. These players will follow him, and now it's time to get in behind him and the coach to get them live here on the breakdown is great, chatting about the future. I look at this. This was an easy decision for them. He's the man to lead the forward.
You know what, though, before we just go on, like, everyone says, oh, you know, we should be picking on form and should be doing this, All Blacks should be doing that. That's what they've done. Exactly what they've done, you know, and this is a pretty hot form team that they've picked. They've got that mix as they spoke about. So I think that's the thing that we need to remember, and the coaches have been brave enough to do it in a World Cup year. It's massive.
I want to ask then, because time heals a lot. And last year, you know, when we lost those test matches at home, Jeff, I mean, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of heat in terms of not just our team, it was the coaching, the whole coaching debacle. We've moved on from that. But you look at this team, having gone through all that adversity, Sam Cane's also mentioned some of them won World Cup, some of them haven't. Do you sense that we are now in a really, really strong position, and now it just sort of comes down to how are we going to play this game? He said fast and, you know, and skillful. But having gone through all that, not being the best team in the world leading into this, are we in a strong position?
We are, because what I believe are the changes they made in terms of their coaching staff gave them a significant lift, and we saw them get that when Jason Ryan came in, Joe Schmidt that came in. So all of a sudden they came in, and you saw in particular areas of the game, we started to be more accurate, and we started to dominate in certain parts of it, and it made our ability to play the way we wanted, I think, that little bit easier. I think now you add in some of this talent and some more time with the group and that coaching team, then all of a sudden I think we'll see those incremental lifts again. Once again, I think maybe people might be underestimating, but don't get me wrong, I have full respect. I'm excited now for this group, young players, full respect for what the rest of the world have done. We'll have to lift and be better.
All right, well, let's cross back now to Kirsty, who has Jason Ryan.
Thanks, team. Jason Ryan, congratulations. I can't imagine what the conversations were like between the three wise men, you yourself included. What was the hardest position to pick?
Oh, look, I think they're all hard, to be honest. You know, like we obviously had a few conversations towards the end around the 9 and also, you know, probably a little bit around our 6. But I think that, you know, the conversations were robust. They were really, really deep, and they have to be, you know, like, you got to do your work as a selector. It's something Foxy said to me when I rung him after Christmas. He said, mate, you got to do the work, watch the footy, go to your live games, get on the computer, and then trust your gut and coach them. So we believe we've done that with this team.
I know that you're the All Blacks coach, but you'll be stoked for Tamaiti Williams, who, of course, came down to the Crusaders. You had a couple of years coaching him and transforming him really from that number 8 to a prop. Yeah, he's a real, you know, great story, Tamaiti. You know, he's such a humble young man who's been given a talent that he probably didn't realise he had until, you know, he sort of tapped into it and had a few people that believed in him. I wasn't the only one. You know, there's a lot of things that he had to get right, and he's done that, and he's, you know, I think this year he's shown that he's had consistent game time for the Crusaders in both positions, and his career's trending up. And we need players that have got a point of difference that can change a game, and we believe he can do that. What a wonderful day for some of these players. You've named 36, 37 if you include Sean Stevenson for the Rugby Championship. Will all of those players get game time? Oh, look, we'll have a good look at them all at training and see how they come in, but, you know, they're there to be All Blacks, and that's what we want them to be. You know, like I've been impressed with all of those boys that are coming in. You know, we've got 20 forwards that are all going to compete against each other, and we'll be honest with them right from day one exactly where they sit. They'll know, and we'll have one-on-ones and make sure we get them better. How many of these players playing in the final this weekend, because there are a lot in the Crusaders and Chiefs, will back up and play in Argentina, if any? Yeah, there'll be some, yeah, 100%. You know, like we've been impressed with their form. I think it's the two best teams. I think it'll be a hell of a contest, the final. I really do. Hopefully there's no injuries. It's the same with like a Samipeni Finau. Like his physical presence, I think, has been outstanding, and we need that as a 6. He'll really compete with Shannon. There's probably a game I said before that stood out for me on Samipeni was when the Chiefs lost to the Reds, and he was probably the only one that stood up in that pack. They had no guzzler.
no Simisoni and no Sammy Kane, and then that was the time for me where I was like, this kid's ready, he's tough.
You've watched a lot of Super Rugby, you've been overseas and had a look at the other teams. What style of rugby is going to win the All Blacks the Rugby World Cup?
I think our ball carry's got to be really important and our clean. We know we can play at speed and we've got the skills, but you know, the ball carry, I think you probably saw it in a couple of games during the weekend. You get that right, you get your height right in the breakdown. It's hard for teams to stay with them, and that's what Ireland do, I guess, a little bit. And you know, we've had some good conversations with Joe where we want to head with that, but you've got to win that set piece as well.
5 tests before the Rugby World Cup, I think 82 days to be exact before the opening match. How much do you show your hand over the next 5 tests, or do you keep it locked away?
We aren't locking anything away. We've got to get stuck in. You know, every week's different. We've got to come out of the blocks. We've got to win test matches, get the country behind us. It's important. We need everyone, and that's the exciting part. So, you know, you evolve every week. You make tweaks to different teams you're playing. That's the challenge for us as a coaching group. But, yeah, just really excited and really looking forward to the privilege of what's ahead.
We love your honesty, Jace. Are you bloody stoked to be a part of this?
Yeah, it's good. To be honest, I said to the selectors in the car on the way here, it's like, how good, this is really special, and we're in a rugby club like this is New Zealand rugby here. It's the country's team.
Well, the All Blacks are lucky to have you. Thank you so much for your time, Jace.
No worries, Kirsty. Thank you. Cheers.
Have to echo Kirsty's word there. We are lucky to have him. I love his honesty. I love when he stands there and Kirsty mentions how close we are to that World Cup opening match. You see a big smile on his face. I love that he's as honest as you know he's going to be with the players. And as a player, that's all you can ask for from your coaching staff, isn't it? Honesty and clarity about where you sit in this lineup.
Well, even to the nation. I mean, he's just mentioned that this is, you know, New Zealand's team. He's sort of being honest about one particular player and why they picked him, and in a certain game he's given sort of evidence there. But I think he's absolutely right. This is different from other World Cups. We're not going in as favourites. They have to win games, and so you're not sort of trying to hide things. You're actually trying to get runs on the board and actually win and dominate these 5 test matches that are coming up, and then roll into there with real confidence, as opposed to what we've sort of done in the past, that we're sort of, you know, hit a couple of things here, you know, relied on guys to get them up to form. I think this is an All Black coaching squad that are going to pick a team that's going to go out there and win every single test match leading into this Rugby World Cup, KT. Yeah,
I love the straight up and downness of Jason Ryan. That's always been a strength of his, right? So that's how he commands respect. But I'm with you. And Fozzie highlighted it on Friday, the Rugby Championship and the importance of it. So I think we don't get caught up too much down the track as yet with the World Cup. I think this is the thing they will do. They will compartmentalise this Rugby Championship and these 5 tests and the importance of that because of the points you just spoke about.
Let's take a look at those 5 tests, because it is quite a schedule as we build into this World Cup. And the big one that I'm most excited for, lots of different reasons, but it's always the, you know, that Australian test. But how do you feel about Argentina as we head over there? How many of those new boys particularly do you think we'll see starting on the park, Jeff?
Well, Argentina came to Christchurch last year and they won.
Oh,
and that hurts.
Yeah.
And that hurts an All Black team. And so when you start thinking about that, they talked about wanting to win games. You can't take anything for granted. And Argentina have established this really experienced group of players who come together very, very quickly, and they perform. But you can't underestimate any of those test matches.
And that's why he's mentioned the guys that are playing in the final, some of them are going to play. You know, that's exactly it. You can't underestimate when you're in an All Black environment how big of an opportunity to actually win games, but have the nation behind you. You know, have the nation, you know, really pump you up. When you turn up to your home games, we've only got 2 this year, and there's a sellout crowd, you know, willing the guys on because they know they've got a massive task going over to France. So winning those games in Argentina and getting guys that are playing in the final, I mean, there's no resting for those guys. They're going to get straight into it because they want to win test matches.
They picked the best squad. They picked the best squad that's going to be available. There's no choice. You know, he just spoke about they need to get off to a fast start, and there has to be a winning start. That's the only option.
And when you have a coach that stands up there and talks like that, even Fozzie, you know, they've got full transparency. You've got Sam Cane talking about how much it means. You're going to get the fans who might have been a bit disgruntled over the last 12 months as well. They're going to get on board and they're going to get right behind and buy those tickets and go and support them.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's a lot to like about this group. He said a couple of things there. And carry clean. and toughness, and genuine toughness. And I think that's not just toughness on the park, but it's toughness mentally. The ones that step up mentally under the pressure, who can perform under the pressure. And we saw that over the weekend, the teams and players who stood up. And then he'll do the same thing this weekend and go, you know what, I don't imagine this game on the weekend being anything like what we saw in Christchurch. And it'll be a different game than we saw in Hamilton. It's going to be epic. And it's actually, I think it helps them. It gives them one more game, like I said earlier on, to see these guys in a really tough, competitive environment.
I actually think this is the way the All Blacks going to play, with these tough forwards that these two teams in the final are with. And like you say, those backs that can get over the ball and compete at the breakdown. I think that's basically what the All Blacks are going to do, but it's at a faster pace.
The tough thing is, right, if you're sitting as a coach, you've coached before, mate. You know, it's all good getting this. They've had limited time. Yeah. How do you prioritise this now? It sounds like they've got a really good plan, but that's going to be the hard part now for the coaches, is prioritising, you know, what they focus on. Is it, you know, do you prioritise the mental side? Do you prioritise, you know, clean ruck, the carries? And how do they put that together? And that's the exciting part for me, but it sounds as if they've been, you know, really come together in that sort of department.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to break down that Super Rugby Pacific final, which is only a week away. We'll see you soon.
Semi-final is underway here in Christchurch. Slings it wide. Mwanga goes wide. Here's a chance early on. And was in.
I was a little bit nervous, but after the first 20, I was like, oh, here we go, we're on.
It was crucial that we had to do a job, and we had to be cold-blooded by any means necessary.
And Will Jordan is under the post. What a try.
This man has set this competition alight this year. The intensity that we started at and finished at was incredible.
That's just what we pride ourselves on. Being Crusaders is what we do. Finals footy, we enjoy it, and we want to walk towards all these challenges.
No one likes losing, and definitely no one likes losing like that.
They have simply demolished the Blues.
Yeah, just want another Monday so bad, man.
They've carried the mantle of favourites for much of the season. Now the Chiefs face the crunch in semi-finals weekend. Here's McKenzie, slicing through. Damien McKenzie, plays it wide. Stevenson, rocked him up. Yes! And the Chiefs are into the final.
We knew we were going to have to grind the Brumbies down, and they defended exceptionally well. We just had to take our opportunities when we got them.
I just love the fight in the team. We've shown it all year, and obviously helps playing in front of a home crowd too. It's awesome, so we're excited for next week.
They will host the final next week against the Crusaders.
We want to be the best. We've got to beat the best. We know we can do it.
Yes, what a fascinating weekend of Super Rugby Pacific finals footy. And Super Rugby is brought to you, of course, by Netcare. Right, so that first match up on the Friday night down at a very cold Christchurch, and the Crusaders fan in me is trying to just keep it together here because I could gloat. I'm not going to. We know that the Crusaders
Your
step up
jacket got
comes
black and white in there as well,
Actually, I was going to wear my shirt, but I thought, no, Laura, just woe back a bit. So, you know, you talk about the Crusaders' ability to step up when it comes to finals footy. Well, they stepped up, but I'm not sure that the Blues even turned up, Mills.
I was very impressed with the Crusaders.
It's okay.
His face.
Oh, seriously.
Sorry, where are the Highlanders and all this?
I know where are the Highlanders and all this, but I guarantee you they would have, at least they would have shown up.
Yeah.
I mean, this was, let's be honest, this is one of the worst playoff performances I've ever seen in this competition. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're talking about a team that last year, 15 games, and they weren't even in this contest. You know, you have to ask some serious questions.
They weren't in it because of it wasn't. The Blues turned up. If you're playing the Crusaders outfit like that, there was no way that anyone could have been able to match it, because they just right from the get-go on top of it. You've got to remember too. Hey, there's 8 All Blacks out of this side.
You can match physicality with physicality. You can do that, and the Blues didn't do that and allowed the Crusaders to play and be the great team that they've shown they are in the past. But we're not getting that this week. That's not happening in Hamilton. The Chiefs aren't going to do this. Look, the work, they were just relentless, the Crusaders, at their very, very best. We know their history, they know what they're capable of. It was a great performance, but the Blues allowed them to play like this, to get on the ball. They knew this was coming, KT, and they didn't prepare themselves well enough, and they didn't match them.
And that's the thing, you know what to expect when you go down there. You got to front. You got to front physically, you got to front mentally, and I think right from the first time the Blues got the ball, they made a mistake. The Crusaders just went bang. Blues made a mistake, Crusaders went bang, and then that was done.
Intensity, straight away.
Yeah, straight off the jump.
You get the intensity straight away. They are flustered. They're wondering what they're trying to do. They second-guess themselves. And what happens? The Crusaders got on top of them. I love the fact that, we heard from Richie Moore. When it comes down to the finals football, a lot of it now becomes tactical. And you see the areas that the Crusaders, really, got them. It was on the outside channels, which is not common. You'd think they'd go to their line.
It's going to explode.
I'm going to explode. I'm going to go. No. Well, what I'm saying, I'm going to breathe. But you guys sat on the other side of the table last week, and this was the Blues' best opportunity, and we saw it on paper. And I reminded you.
I picked the Crusaders.
Remember about Richie Mo'unga and about what he's capable of, and he's had so much influence in this competition, and it was a masterclass set up by players around him, but he didn't make bad decisions. He put guys into space. He ran when he should run. He kicked when he should kick. Everything, the balance was there. This is what the Crusaders do. That's what he does in big moments.
Oh, so it's all right when you say it, but when I say it, I'm just a Crusader.
No, you're 100% right. I'm 100% behind you.
I'll
you're
take
bang
that.
on.
Thank you.
You're 100% right.
So what is it?
But that's not this weekend.
But
that's not this weekend.
Just wait, just hold on. I'll be back next week just to pop in and see how that goes. But Katie, is that just pure lack of preparation? Is it they what did the Blues expect when they went down there if they were going to do that? Because you just saw there was like 5 or 6 ball handling errors, and I don't even think the conditions sort of allowed for ball handling errors. It was a good night for rugby.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was lack of preparation. You can't do that, not at this level. I just think, they come with a particular game plan and they just got flustered straight off the bat. The way the Crusaders just enveloped them and just suffocated them, I don't think they were expecting the intensity that they got. And by the time you try and catch up to that was way too late. But the thing I was going to say, it was the role players from the Crusaders that really stood out for me, the Talatuis, the Leo Willies. They were the ones that really made the difference, I think, in that game. And it just allowed all the superstars to go do their thing and jam.
So if we talk about polar opposites, we talk about the second semi-final, which of course was the Chiefs-Brumbies, which was a brilliant game of rugby. First try was scored in the 77th minute. I think that the right team won and will meet the Crusaders in that final. The Chiefs have led the way this competition. What did you make? I thought the Brumbies put in a really good show. Defensively, in the last part of that first half was some of the best defence I've seen from an Australian outfit in a long time.
But the conditions were really tough, and it rained heavily for most of the game. So I think what it did is it closed the gap in terms of being able to make line breaks and attack. Both teams tried to play a little bit. The Chiefs clearly a little bit more than the Brumbies, but the Brumbies were well organised on defence. They were accurate, but ultimately, you always felt as though the Chiefs, they didn't have it in control, but they were the better team, that they had more scope in what they could do. Look, I think we've got the right teams. The Chiefs were really impressive for me. I hope we get a good night. I really do. I hope we don't get that where it gets hard to play your game.
Think about it. The last night's game, it took 27 odd minutes before we had the first knock on. And that sort of rain. So the intensity is going to be there. You're right. We're not going to get the game that we had on Friday night because both sides will bring that intensity. The Chiefs, in my mind, they've probably had it, they've got their game together and being able to play. I wouldn't say boring is probably not the right word, but really a disciplined game plan where you don't want to open things up. They've got the ability to open it up. The difference of the Blues is they're really disciplined now, the Chiefs, in terms of sticking to that and waiting for a moment to happen. And what happened? The moment happened in the 77th minute, and they took it. We have not seen that in a Chiefs outfit for probably 10 years since they last won the championship.
I think the bullet point to that what you're saying, and Jason Wright mentioned it, was a Reds game where they tried to overplay too much and they thought they could just run around them. And I thought that was the point. They thought, we have to actually earn the right to do that, and they've gone back to that, and that's what they've done the last couple of weeks in this finals football, and they've found a different way to win than they did during the season. And then teams, obviously, they preview that and they try and shut the switch down until a point they were able to do that. And the Chiefs know they can still play that game, but it's picking the time when to do that once they've established the middle of the park.
Let's take a look at the Musashi power play. And, of course, Musashi you can get at Chemist Warehouse. Damien McKenzie, he is some player, G.
He's been some player all year. He's the Super Rugby Player of the Year right now. He's got one more game to prove it. I think he's been that influential. Look, the Chiefs knew when they signed him he was going to be a game changer for him. He's found some real balance in his game. Look, there's some times in some games he's got himself into trouble, Mills. He's run himself into trouble, but in terms of his game management, I thought it was perfect last night, given the conditions, his option taking along the ground and distance. He's got some help around him. It's nice to have wingers and fullbacks who can kick the ball a long way. Really, really helpful. But look, he had his moment, and all of a sudden he created something that ultimately got them the win.
Well, and that's the thing. We've spoken about balance a lot this year, but also the adaptability of his team. So he's a guy that sort of, prepared to go backwards. And sometimes the other 14 are like, what are you actually doing? This Chiefs outfit know that sometimes he will go backwards and then they'll win a big moment. They'll get themselves ready for that. So the unpredictability isn't really that anymore amongst his team. I mean, Sam Cane went backwards a few times on the back of him passing it, but I think they've got a really nice balance in terms of how they play. And this matchup in itself,
the old Gillette head-to-head here has never looked juicier.
Well, I just want to say, like, first 5 to have 100% tackle rate, I mean, far out. Man, especially the amount of traffic that goes down there, right? So that
15, like you say, 15 for 15.
Yeah. Hey.
Like, the last time I remember that was Tony Brown.
Brown.
He loved tackling.
Yeah, but that's why he can't shake your hand properly.
Yeah, that's probably a bit of it. But this is what it comes down to, the fact that two guys are in such good form, managing their teams. I don't think this is a fight for the All Blacks number 10 jersey, but what it is it gives us options. It gives us ways you can play the game. Imagine these two guys playing together, Mills.
And I love the fact, look at this sort of stuff. I love both of them. The ability to go wide and execute, where usually you go into a final and you're going, look at this tactical kicking, right on the spot, it's actually contestable, but 10s usually go and just to kick the ball down there and then kick back and just play real safe. When the moments arise and they see it, they take it.
And I think they're two very different number 10s as well. You know, they can still do the flash, but I think they're still very, very different. Richie doesn't go lateral as much.
Just to say as well, the last 20 minutes of that game in Hamilton, he was at fullback. Josh Ioane had come on and moved to 10.
He was very good.
And Josh Ioane was great. But once again, then Damian McKenzie adjusted his game. Let's bring on Hamilton.
I'm so
FMG
excited.
Stadium.
It'll
be
playing
packed
like
house.
that. You've got Brad Weber saying that the Chiefs have found a way to win every which way. Every game possible they have won this season. So when we come down to it, this final, I mean, FMG Stadium this Saturday. I'm going to ask for your predictions. And Jeff, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Don't have a lot of time, so you want me to be quick? In other words, I tell you what, it's going to be broken. I believe the Chiefs can do it.
Okay, I don't want to hear that. Jeff, Mills?
You know who I'm going for. Okay. That's Chiefs Mana for me.
Chiefs Mana, KT?
Ex-Chiefs, so have to. They're the goods. Unlucky you.
That's only because you're here. It's just that we can.
Right, make sure you join us for what will be a brilliant Super Rugby Pacific final. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Congratulations to those All Blacks, that 36-man squad. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Here we go. The final for Super Rugby Pacific 2023 is set. The Chiefs, it's been 10 years since their last title.
And the Chiefs go back-to-back.
The Crusaders know this stage all too well.
And the dynasty continues. Oh, how good. Oh, too good.
And when Jordan is under the post, couldn't get the ball.
Has set this competition alight this year.
And the Chiefs are into the final.
The Chiefs versus the Crusaders. The road to glory starts now.
Sean Stevenson scores! Gets the ball back inside, brilliance!